Hey, it's Anthony Whitaker here, and welcome to today's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast. And whether this is your first time or perhaps you're a regular listener, thank you for tuning into today's show. Now, in case you don't already know, video versions of our podcast are also now available on our YouTube channel. So if you want to put faces to the names, then head on over to Grow My Salon Business on YouTube, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. So with that said, on with today's episode. When you've been in this industry a long time, you'll not only see trends and businesses come and go, but you will inevitably also see people come and go. Sometimes it's because they've reached a point where they want to hang up their blow dryer for good, and other times it's to pursue other interests, either within the industry or elsewhere. But longevity as a hairdresser, remaining relevant throughout your career, is not only a skill in itself, but if you can remain passionate and keep evolving with the times, the result is that you build up a range of skills that leave you with a fantastic legacy to pass on to the generations that follow. My guest today is one such person. Ruth Roche has had many roles in the industry, and over a 40-year career, she has done all of them well and continues to inspire hairdressers at every stage of their career, and certainly shows no stage of letting up just yet. So welcome to the show, Ruth Roche.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me, Anthony. I'm so excited. It's an honor.
No, I'm excited as well. I mean, we were having a little bit of a chat before we pushed the record button, and neither of us are new at this. I interviewed you. We were just trying to put a date on it, and we decided it was somewhere in the 90s. So I can remember then you were this new, young, fresh-faced, presenter in the industry, out there treading the boards and doing a fantastic job. And who would have thought, here we are 30-something years later, and we're doing it again. So, it's been a long time between drinks, that's for sure.
A long time between drinks?
Yeah.
That's too long.
Do you not use that expression?
I've never heard that.
Oh, right. Maybe it's one of my Australian expressions I've picked
like
up along the way, a long time between drinks. So, yeah, whatever it is, 35 years is a long time.
Yes.
And, when I think of you, I think of humour, because you were one of the first people that I ever saw on stage, because most people don't do it, because I suppose most people are not naturally funny. But I saw you on stage, and this was in Sydney, in the 90s, I think, sometime mid to late 90s, and you use self-depreciating humor.
Yeah.
And you use it really, really well. So I wanted to ask you straight off the bat, have you always been funny, or is this something that you worked on developing as part of your sort of shtick, or what?
No, I think shit just happens to me. You know what I mean? And I never can plan it. Sometimes I'll have a story that I've told before that I'll tell because I know it's a funny story and it makes people laugh and it makes sense to tell it. But for the most part, I just let it roll. And because I'm a klutz, because I can't remember what I'm talking about, because of, whatever, things happen. I trip, I drop stuff, everything shakes on the stage while I'm walking by. So there's, just things like that I go, Oh my God.
So none of that is part of your act.
The only thing that was part of my act was this alter ego person that I had.
Yes.
Yeah. She was an act, but even her, she did not have a script.
Right. And who was she? Now, we're going back a long time. I'm thinking it was some sort of Valley girl or something from...
Yeah. Her name was Judy. And
Judy. Yeah.
Judy, because when I was little, my sister's best friend's name was Judy, and she had really long, straight hair. And I thought, that's who I want to be when I grow up. I want to be Judy. So Judy was, and it's Judi with a heart over the I. It's not a regular I,
Yeah, of course.
And she thought she had her finger on the pulse of everything that was like in the know, ahead of the curve, inspirational to everyone, motivational to everyone. And she would say things like, I just want to thank all of my fans for being here, because you are really the reason that you are the wind beneath my wings, stuff like that. Just stupid,
Yeah,
and it got to where I had people, I would sometimes go out on a stage and someone would go, "Where's Judy?" And it was just, she was a hairdresser too,
yeah,
but she always got overwhelmed by the time she got out there to do hair. She got overwhelmed because everyone was staring at her. So
yeah.
she'd have to leave.
Yeah. Okay. So you could just flip in and out of these different sort of personalities and
Yeah.
be Ruth Roche a bit more serious, and then there's alter ego Judy character. That
Yeah.
was, yeah, that was good. I mean, it really worked. Did that work everywhere? I
Yeah.
mean, because humor's different, isn't it, in different countries? Like,
Yeah. In Australia, I was afraid it wasn't going to work. As a matter of fact, I had someone say, "Don't do Judy there." And I was like, I have to do Judy. So
yeah,
Judy actually was a big hit down there because she was talking about how she's been preparing to come to Australia, and she's been, to go down under. So she's been hanging out underneath like tables and stuff to see what it feels like, stupid shit like that.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Being a presenter, and I'm going to talk, about your different roles in the industry, but whether it's humor or not, communication is a really important skill. And obviously, you're a very competent hairdresser as well. We're going to talk about that too. But how consciously did you work on the communication side of things? Because, there's a lot of people that will be great at doing hair. They'll come out on stage and they'll do something great, but they don't bring it to life, or they don't sort of engage with the audience. They don't bring anything to it other than I'm good with my hands. So, did you have to work at, communication, or was it just who you were naturally that you've just always been a pretty solid communicator?
I I'm an analytical thinker, but in chaotic ways. So I I love to be able to explain something in many different ways, so that, and a lot of it is visual analogies that I'll use, or, just an analogy in general that has no technical words inside of it. It's just to help people relate it to something that they already know really well, you know? So I feel like that's something that I was natural as far as like being able to talk like that. But I did learn a lot of skills to engage and keep people engaged when I was working with Redken.
Mhm.
So, and how to get an audience to interact with you, how to keep it alive for them, and keep their energy up. Those kind of things I learned when I was with Redken and the training that I got there.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot then and ask you, what would one thing be? If a young hairdresser who wants to get on platform, and do show work and have an audience in front of them, but they're terrified of that component,
Yeah.
as much as they might want it. What's one tip you would give them to make it easier?
Um, Here's a simple one. If you ask an audience a question, even in a class, it works in a class, it works in a big thing. If it's a huge audience, that's different. That's more like you're presenting, right? If it's like 10,000 hairdressers or 1,000 hairdressers, but you can do something like, by round of applause, how many of you have, cut your finger when you're doing a bob, something like that. Or you could say, hands up if you have cut your finger doing a bob, or, if you've cut your finger doing a bob, say yes, and then they repeat back to you. So you're getting people to participate energetically and be present,
Mm,
and make it feel more personal, like you're talking just to that one person, as
mm.
opposed to you guys, you guys, you guys, raise your hand if you have blah blah blah.
So create some engagement, like
Yeah,
create
yes.
some participation. Yeah,
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 because it's
good
easy to
one.
get, especially when you're freaking out and you're
Yeah,
nervous,
yeah.
to shut down and think nobody likes me. I'm going to, like I'm just going to keep it to and I'm just going to keep getting through this. And you start to become a monologue. You
Mm,
want it to be
mm,
a conversation,
yeah,
so there are tools and techniques that people use, and that's some of them to do that,
yeah.
you know?
That's good. That's good. I
Yeah.
like that. Okay. So we've sort of touched on it a little bit already. You mentioned Redken. You mentioned Trevor. A lot of people, don't necessarily know who Trevor is. So when we talk about Trevor, we're talking about Trevor Sorby. But I know you've had a very diverse career. I did a little bit of research, and I don't know if I've got all these in the right order. But I know you were a pivot point educator at some point. You worked for Trevor Sorby. You've been a product company ambassador. You mentioned Redken a minute ago. You've been a solo educator, a celebrity stylist, an editorial stylist. You've also even been a salon owner, which is interesting. What I wanted to ask you about is what drives you, what keeps you moving. Where do you feel the most comfortable? Are you looking for something? Is that why you keep jumping from one thing to the next?
I think I have to keep stimulated, and I also don't want to miss out on anything. So I'm like, oh,
Mm.
I want to do that too, or I want to do, like I've never limited myself by thinking, oh, I can't do that, you know,
Yeah.
um, because especially if someone tells me I can't do that, then I'm like, oh yeah, well, watch this,
Mm.
um, because I don't want to miss out. I want to experience everything that I have that little excitement in my heart about, and do it. So now, but what I'm looking for now in my career is a way of leaving my legacy for the industry. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not retiring or anything, but this next, 15 years or so, what do I want to do? And what I do want to do is carry on the things that I learned that nobody's teaching, like how to make hair look like plastic, or how to, and it's a and helping other people to believe in their ideas and MacGyver them and figure them out, meaning get how to create what you're imagining or what you want to
Mm.
see. If you have no idea how to work with wigs, hair pieces, anything like that, a lot of the work I do for the North American Hairstyling Awards and the session work and the photographic stuff is crazy. So I think not everyone believes they are creative, and I think that's bullshit. I think that um, everyone has creative thoughts; they just don't realize it. And they might be creative with numbers. They might be creative, in a different way.
Mm.
But people that do hair, I find, are doing what they already see. They're doing things they've already seen. And my goal before I leave this earth is that we get an influx of new talent doing stuff that no one's seen before. So that's my thing, is like right now I have a mentorship program called Vision Craft. It's 6 months, and I've got people in it that the goal by the end of it is that they have a collection that they can shoot for award ceremonies, for whatever. So, and then they can shoot it if they want in the next step. But it's basically helping people get from nothing to a physical, tangible collection that they've created with their own hands that came from their imagination or something, else. But basically bringing it to life, making it happen, and then capturing it on film forever. And so that's kind of my thing, is like, okay, I want to be able to pass all this crazy stuff on to the next generations and leave it and stop having secrets. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
this is the man behind the curtain. This is what's going on here. And what that will do, I hope, is it'll start this sort of competition or thing to keep pushing yourself to do something you haven't seen before, because I'm not saying this to be a jerk, but I feel like a lot of what we see in that competition arena of photographic work
Mhm.
is the same,
Mm.
it's a lot of the same things. So I just think it'd be fun to just say, hey, here's some people that are shaking it up and doing something different.
Yeah, good,
So
good. Okay.
yeah.
So one of the things I often think about with hairdressers, I mean, myself being a hairdresser as well, is, going from doing what I call hairdresser hair. So, you've been on stage, you do hairdresser hair to
Yeah.
sort of entertain and wow a hairdressing audience. And that's very different to doing salon hair, And that's very different to doing editorial hair for magazine shoots and stuff. And you sort of jump between all of them. And that's a skill in itself, because a lot of people, they have their niche and that's what they're known for and they focus on it. You seem to have floated through, different parts of your professional journey, and you've dipped in and out of all of those different things. Is that because you were looking for something? Was it because you didn't believe in what you were doing at one level and wanted to, take it in another direction, maybe a more fashion direction, or not?
I was always excited about fashion and shooting, because when I was with Trevor, I used to assist him at shoots, and those were more like hairdresser hair shoots,
Yeah.
for the industry. Um, and then when I was living in New York, because that's where I was most of my adult life, and that's why I moved there, is because I knew if I wanted to really get into that world of
Mm.
fashion and celebrities and da 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 da, that was where I would need to be. Um, and so I had done enough shooting with the industry stuff that I did right in the beginning, that I had enough to put a portfolio together to take to an agency. However, if anybody's interested who's listening and doing, editorial and like uh, commercial type of stuff, you have to get rid of most of the stuff in your portfolio if you're doing weird shit for
Mm.
awards.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
they want to know you can do a perfect ponytail.
Yeah, yeah,
They want to know that you can do beautiful wearable hair, that's natural and lived in general. And then, your editorial or more advanced skills or more edgy stuff still has to have, it can't be so over the top that no one would ever wear it.
yeah.
It has to be believable.
Mm.
And so I think what was cool is I got that experience of doing the stronger, avant-garde stuff with Trevor. And so I could do things with hair that maybe someone else couldn't do, but I could do it in a way that it worked for the situation. If it was an editorial spread or whatever, I might get there sooner, have a different approach to it because I had learned all the other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I love asking people like yourself, how would you define beauty? And how would you define suitability? Because they're two different things. And I'd just love to get your insight on that. What do you think about when you think about a definition of beauty and a definition of suitability?
oh, okay. So suitability, I would say, is looking, when you look at someone, they it looks like their hair is just a part of them, as opposed to a hairstyle that's put on them, you
Okay.
know? So that could mean the way that they style it. It could mean where the layers start, where does it open up on their face? What part of them is it showing? So, instead of looking at a hairstyle and putting it on them, create it from them, what you see on them, that kind of thing. So that it also is something if they're not gonna style it, then they're not gonna style it,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
which makes me really mad, but that's how they are.
yeah, exactly.
you
Yeah,
know? And then beauty to me is, it's so, I know it's corny, but it's in the eye of the beholder, right?
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
I
definitely.
think there are things that we all think are beautiful, that you can't argue, like that is beautiful. But to me, it's something that makes my mind rest,
Yeah.
that gives me peace,
Mm,
because you just want to stop and take it in and enjoy it. So whether that's a, a moment captured
mm,
on film, or uh, it's the way someone's hair sits right here on their cheek,
mm,
that just makes a certain part of them come alive. And to me, it's more natural as opposed to forced. But then you
mm,
can, something could be very, very contrived, like old Hollywood glamour,
mm.
and it's beautiful. So,
Yeah, yeah. Have you had any sort of defining moments in your career that have, along these lines of understanding beauty. Like I've spoken to a lot of editorial hairdressers over these podcasts, and it's interesting how some of them will talk about a defining moment with a fashion designer or a photographer who has made them look at something in a certain way. Um, and it's just really been a turning point for them in terms of understanding what beauty is and what fashion is, and being able to look at something in a different way. Have you ever had a defining moment like that?
I think, I hadn't thought about it this way until you just said that, but photographers, for
Mm,
sure, because they see something that you don't. Now we can see it instantly on the screen because it's digital capture and we can look at it and
mm,
all that. But as we go, but back in the day, it was a Polaroid and then you just went for it and you didn't know
mm,
what you got till you got the film. Now we can be a part of that process and see, oh, that's not a good angle. Let me try, or that's the
mm,
best angle of the hair. Let's keep going with that. Or sometimes what I think is good, the photographer doesn't because of all the other factors I'm not paying attention to, like, you know, anything, their facial expression, their clothes are wrinkled. There's something hanging out wrong or whatever. And
heaven forbid.
what is that?
Yeah.
So anyway, they can, and then when you see it on film, you okay?
Yeah, I was just thinking about Judy, and I was thinking, does
Uh,
Judy still rear her head on occasion?
yeah,
Like
yes.
in the wrong place.
I did it at my birthday party with my family because I had a
Yeah.
microphone. We had live entertainment, and I grabbed it and I was like, I just want to thank all of my fans for being here. You can all sit down now. And they were already sitting down.
Right, okay.
They're
Uh,
just like,
yeah, move on.
yeah. So, so photographers,
Yeah.
like, and then when you get all the film back and you're looking at it, all the shots, like I'm trying to pick the best ones, I let them pick first.
Mm,
What are the best shots?
yeah.
Not what's the best hair.
Mm,
And then I pick mine from there because they're looking at the whole image and everything that's in it, and I'm
mm,
just looking at the hair.
yeah.
So sometimes that means I'm picking one that I don't think the hair looks as good.
Mm,
But once I analyze what they're talking about, I see that they're right,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I've had that
So,
experience. I know
yeah,
exactly what you mean.
yeah,
You mentioned, well, we both mentioned it, Trevor Sorby,
yeah.
Vivian McKinder. These are two real heavyweights in the world of hairdressing over the last 40, 50 years. And you've worked very closely with both of them. If you had to look back at your time with both of them, um, is there a particular lesson that you would go, if there's one thing I got from Trevor, it's this. Or if there's one thing I got from Vivian, it's that. Is there anything that you'd really, like to sort of pull out and underline as being an important lesson?
I think with Vivian, I really learned touch, like touching the hair and getting your hands involved with it more than just manipulating with a brush or a comb or whatever. Um, and I can hear her saying it right now, never rest on your laurels. Like you're only as good as your last haircut,
Mm.
you know, which is kind of harsh, but
Yeah, yeah,
it is,
yeah, yeah.
but it's what it says to me is like, don't settle for less. Most importantly for
Mm.
yourself, you know, like if you're not in love with it, why are you letting it be that way? Like make it better, change it, do something. And then
Mm.
with Trevor, it's some of that as well. Um, but I think with what he taught me is to really push to do things that are not ordinary, that are not seen yet, to surprise people. Like that's when I think of Trevor, I think of he always just created these magical things where people go, wow, whether it was a show with choreography and dancers that went from like, you know, Marie Antoinette to punk in like 3 seconds, or whatever. It was just always surprising people. And I know what he said. Um, you always have to make something look believable, even if it's the weirdest thing and it's not, it's not natural walking down the street hair. It still looks like it could have been their hair. That element of make it believable in some way so that you're really playing with people's minds and visual, interpretations of what you're looking at.
Yeah, yeah. And you were very lucky to, have had
I
that
am so
experience.
lucky. I am so lucky that I had the teachers that I did. You
Mm.
know, I just can't get over it sometimes.
Yeah,
40 years this year I've been doing hair.
yeah, yeah, long time. Um, we mentioned earlier Salon. I never would have picked you as being someone who'd go and open a salon. So what made you do that? How long did you have it? And yeah, talk to us about the salon time.
Well, I had the salon, but originally when I left Redken, I wanted to do my own academy. So advanced academy, for hairdressers that are already licensed and all that. And so my first class when I left Redken was September 9th, 10th, and 11th, 2001. So it was September 11th when I had
Okay.
I left Redken. I left this big contract. I was like, I'm going to do my own thing, blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of a little bit burned out on all the travel.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to do this now. And then finally got my first class out of the gate and 9/11 happened.
Mm.
And it was like, oh no, like I've made this huge mistake. No one wants to travel. No one wants to come to New York,
Was
like,
that in New York? So
yeah,
you
I was
opened a
there.
salon in New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I did that for 2 years and kind of built it back up, but I just rented a space when I
Mm.
needed it. Then I was going to open a space that was my academy, but I gave up trying to find one because I just wasn't finding what I wanted or dealing with people that knew what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
So I gave up. And then I was walking down the street one day in Tribeca and came across this space. And it was one of those moments where it was like my heart just went boom. And I said, this is it right here. This is the space. It's going to be my salon and my academy. So I didn't have a clientele. I
Mm.
opened a salon with no clients,
Yeah, in downtown New York.
like
Well,
a dummy.
Tribeca. Yeah,
But
yeah.
did have one person that had a clientele. But I didn't hire anyone with a clientele. I started people right from school because I didn't want to have any bad habits and weirdness and any of that stuff. So
Mm.
I built it up and sold it 8 years later, and I do not regret it.
Mm.
It was amazing. The people that stuck, that stayed with me are like some of my best friends now, and we live all over the country.
Mm.
And like some of them just came to my 60th birthday party, and they all
Wow,
have
fantastic.
like
Yeah.
families and kids, and I knew them
Mm.
when they were like just out of school and all that.
Mm.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing to feel that feeling of seeing them all together and getting our picture taken together after so many years, because it's been about 20 years since I opened the salon, and I had it for 8. So yeah, that's why I opened a salon, because I found the space and I wanted a place for my academy. So I thought, a salon and an academy would make more income than just an academy.
Yeah. So was it? Did you end up using it as an academy as well, or
Yeah.
no one wanted to come to
Yeah.
New York? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I did. It took a while, but because by the time I opened the salon, it was 2003.
Right.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
and then I had it till 2011, and I sold it to one of my employees,
Hmm.
who had been doing hair for 3 years. She bought my salon.
Yeah. Good. Okay.
Yeah. I was
So
very
so
lucky.
yeah. So learning curve for you. I mean, you were very much focused on the creative side of things. How did you transition into all of a sudden being a business owner and having to employ people and pay people and all that? I mean, did
Yeah.
you do that yourself, or did
No
you have
way.
someone else?
I have friends that are great friends to this day that are business people that help me put systems in place to help me
Hmm.
set up the interview process, how to narrow down who the right people are. all the things you don't know that you don't know,
Mm.
that, I mean, one of those friends was just here for my birthday, and someone gave an hour of his time to me for a gift because I was completely freaking out. I think I had just opened that week or something. And my office was in a loft up above, so it looked over the salon.
Yeah.
So I'm under my desk sobbing on the phone with him, going, "What have I done? I can't do this, blah, blah, blah." And he's like talking me, through it, trying to get me to stop crying. And because I have to go back down to
So,
the,
so
to do hair.
what was the thing that broke you? Was it recruitment, or
I had to
was it?
let someone go before I even
Okay.
opened.
Okay. Yeah.
That was always the hardest part for me,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
when someone's, it's not working out.
Yeah.
Um, and you have to have that conversation. And I'm a
Yeah.
people pleaser. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that was really the worst part. And the other part was managing people, like telling a 35-year-old person to not chew gum for
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah.
What the hell? Like, I can't deal with that. That's
Yeah.
just dumb.
Yeah.
So anyway, I
Okay.
didn't have that in me. I could understand financials,
Yeah.
but just no interest in it. Like,
Yeah.
it just felt like torture to have to look at it and deal with it,
Mm.
you know?
So yeah. So what did you learn about yourself during those 8 years?
I learned that I was not a good manager, but I was a good leader.
Okay.
And I learned
Okay.
that there was a difference,
Yeah, definitely. I would have actually said the same thing about me.
Really cool.
So yeah, so tell me your insight into that you were a good leader but not a good manager.
Because I would do whatever I asked them to do, I would do it too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether that's like sweeping the floor, cleaning a coffee cup, saying hello to every single client, making sure everyone was comfortable, all
Mm.
the things that I asked them to do, I wasn't afraid to do myself. And just helping them to believe in themselves creatively
Mm-hmm.
and help them learn how to have the skills to be able to feel great behind the chair and confident.
Yeah.
Um, and I just was always doing things, I think, showing them how you can manifest what you want. So we would have these events at the salon where we would bring in music, and we'd have art. I had 15-foot ceilings, so we'd have art, hanging around for then featuring different people. But I think I just showed them that you don't give up, that you can create anything you can if you stick to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. But I
Yeah.
think people wanted to work with me because they wanted the guidance, and I think they thought it would be fun.
Mm.
Sometimes I think people were disappointed because I'm also very serious
Mm.
when I'm working.
So did you ever feel like it was a fit, or did you always feel like this is a fraud? And I'm not saying it was, by the
No,
way,
I understand.
but did you ever feel? I mean, 8 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Were you always feeling like a sort of out of place, or were there times where you thought, "No, I'm loving this, building up a clientele, having a salon, employing staff"?
I think I always felt a little like I was on a roller coaster. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what's around the corner. I think that's
Yeah.
what the hardest part for me was, to, like, I think, and I was so, just that you were responsible for all these people. You know what I
Mm.
mean? To make sure that they had a
Yeah.
place to work, that they got paid, they had, all those things. And so I never really felt like, oh, I got this,
Mm.
we got to where we were really consistently busy, and I had a good amount of people on the floor, and it was getting better, but it took so long to get there, you
Yeah.
know? And so the first 5 years was fun because it was build, and
Yeah.
excitement and all that stuff. And then that's when people, like, people started leaving, or I had to fire someone who had been there for a long time. And
Mm.
so it started to hurt my heart, you
Mm.
know, and that's why I don't think I'd ever do it again, because I can't separate the how I feel for somebody from the business part of it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can, but it really rips me apart. So
yeah.
the last 3 years was about me exploring ways to move on and do something else.
Right. Okay. And
Yeah.
what was the something else?
The something else was staying on as a stylist with Fatima, who bought the salon,
Yeah.
and that way I could still boss everybody around, but then leave. It
Mm.
was perfect.
Not deal with the mess. Yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to get back into education. So at the time, I had Pureology retail in my salon and Redken Color. So I went back to the L'Oreal family um, under the Pureology brand and started traveling. I became their artistic director. So while I still was in the salon, I started working for Pureology and traveling all over the country. We went all over the place, and I
Mm.
did that for 9 years.
Yeah.
So all the while, I was still, doing shoots and all that stuff. I had still had my agent,
Mm.
but that started to fade away because I started to get so busy with Pureology. I had to start saying no to people. And when you start saying no to your celebrity clients or photographers or whatever, then they stop asking because you're never available.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it was okay. I was ready to not do that kind of work anymore and
Right.
get really dive into education again. So,
Right. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So was that where your heart was, or was
Yes,
that where the money was?
that's both.
Both. Right.
Both.
Okay. Yeah.
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 My heart mainly because like that interaction with people um, and helping them as opposed to doing a celebrity's hair the same way every time you see them, and like
Mm.
it's just not, it's not always that exciting. And I find that like right now I'm really into going to schools and going and
Yeah.
seeing those kids when they're like brand new and
Mm.
they don't know what they want to do. And I've been sharing some of that really crazy stuff that I do and breaking it down like this piece of vinyl is actually hair and here's how I made it and I cut this
Mm.
apart and it started, and they're just like, you know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I it's so advanced, but it opens their mind to all the things they could do with hair in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
As someone who travels a lot and have worked in lots of different parts of the industry, you get to see the good and the bad, and you get to see the possibilities. What I want to ask you about is, particularly in the US, what do you like most about what the industry does in the US, and what do you wish was different? And then, of course, whether you're going to Canada or Australia or the UK or Europe or whatever, do you see things and think, wow, I think this would be fantastic if it was more like this, at home?
I think it's that you have opportunities.
Yeah.
Like you can own your own salon, you can have a studio, you can like have a suite, you can be uh you can move to New York or LA and be an editorial session stylist. You can be a teacher, you can teach in a school, you can do virtual, like I think that's anywhere, but that's what I feel like here, opportunity.
Yeah, I think
um
America generally,
yeah. What
opportunity, like,
Yeah,
anything's possible.
yeah.
If you want to have a go, you can have a go, and no one's going to stop you. In
Yes,
fact, in most cases, they're going to applaud you and wish you all the best, aren't they?
that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I think
cool.
so. Yeah.
Um, the What I wish we had more of is hairdressing training.
Mm.
I feel like what's happened is that people are learning one thing and specializing in it,
Mm.
and they're going to burn out. You know what I mean? It's like if you're just a balayage, or what, I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
that's
yeah,
all you
yeah.
ever
It's
do,
relevant. Yeah.
then first of all, no one's going to want to come to you when that's not in style anymore. And
Mm.
then also you're going to go insane doing the same thing over and over and over and burn out. And I think hairdressing, when I'm talking about like setting hair, combing hair out, back combing, learning how to style hair, really manipulate hair, helps your color placement. It helps hair cutting. It helps everything because you get your hands in there more. It's more of this as opposed to just cutting and fluffing or color and then curling it with a curling iron. It's a different way. So you see so many more options in a head of hair when you have that skill in your wheelhouse, or
Yeah,
if
definitely.
it's part of your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So
So if you were advising well, you could answer this question in two ways. If you're advising a young hairdresser about that, because I totally agree with you, there's this certain aesthetic that's happening at the moment. It's predominantly long hair, it's predominantly balayage, but when we talk about, Gen Z, that sort of 20 to 30 age group, there's a lot of hairdressers in there that have never really learned how to cut hair. Scrolling through Instagram the other day, I saw a girl with long hair, the length of your hair now. And it was just a very short thing on Instagram. But she had all her hair cut off. And she was a beautiful girl with long hair. And she was a beautiful girl with her hair cut off. And when I say her hair cut off, it was short. It wasn't as short as mine, but,
right.
2 or 3 inches long all over. And she still looked beautiful. And I couldn't help but look at the comments. And they were predominantly really negative about why would you, and I'm going to assume that most of the comments were from hairdressers, about why would you want to do that to someone, and or why would someone want their hair cut off. Now, it wasn't an ugly haircut. It was quite nice, sort of just as nice, disheveled, short, little tousled thing, not overly styled and, whatever, just nice, on a beautiful girl. And I just looked at it and I just thought to myself, isn't it interesting that a lot of young hairdressers today can't see the beauty in that? Now, look, my wife's got long hair. You've got long hair. My daughters have got long hair. It's a thing at the moment. But I'll still see a girl in the street or, in a magazine with short hair and go, God, she looks fantastic. Isn't that refreshing? And I'm sure you do as well. So I sort of worry maybe that a generation of people can't see the beauty in shorter hair as well as long hair, because long hair can be beautiful without a doubt, but so can short hair. Talk to that for a minute and then we can wrap up.
I think there's a small percentage of that generation that is willing to take a risk and do something like that and go shorter with their hair. They're terrified because they don't know how to cut short hair, right? And they have this thing that short hair makes people look older or whatever. I think that's sort of part of it. My advice is learn everything, right? Because if it's not in style now, it will be at some point, and you want to be able to do it. So I am a little worried, yes, like you said, about what's going to happen with people looking at someone's face going, ooh, this would be amazing. Like a shorter look. If you don't know how to do it, you can't even picture it, right? You have to know how to do it. And I think, I've done short haircuts in classes, where just because it's shorter, they're like, oh, my mom would like that. You know what I mean? It's like, and then you go, oh shit, that's old to them to cut hair shorter. So it's interesting.
I saw I was talking to a hairdresser, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before because it was just earlier this year. And a salon owner was telling me that a client, a young woman, came into the salon with a picture of Emma Watson, and Emma Watson, actress out of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And she's in the Prada campaign at the moment. And she's got a little crop, beautiful little crop. And, she's got elfin features and she looks gorgeous. No matter what she had, she looks gorgeous. And this salon owner was telling me that a client bought this picture of Emma Watson from the Prada campaign into the salon saying that she wanted a haircut like that. A young woman wanted a haircut like that. And all the staff were terrified.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't believe that they didn't want to do that. It's like that they were terrified because they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But also, I just wonder, did they not see the beauty in that as well?
Yeah.
Because it can look beauty. I mean, whether you're talking about Emma Watson, or whether you're talking about Twiggy in the 60s, or Edie Sedgwick, or anyone, like, beauty can come in all shapes and sizes and different lengths of hair. We touched on that when I, asked you about, salon hair versus educator hair versus stage hair, etc.
Yeah.
It has many different faces. But listen, I'm sorry I have gone over time.
That's okay.
But it's been fabulous. It's been really good chatting to you. You've got some great insights, and you've had an incredible, journey within this industry. And you've still got a few years left in you yet.
Yes.
Perhaps
I'm not going away, damn it.
Yeah, perhaps Judy gets another outing. Whereabouts can people connect with you on Instagram or social media channels?
Instagram is best. It's at Ruth Roche, just my name, and that's it. DM me, say hello, blah blah blah. I'm here.
But you have a YouTube channel too, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and don't you have a podcast as well? Let's come on, Ruth. Like, where's Judy when you need her? You've got a podcast. Plug your podcast.
I know. Judy should have a podcast.
She should, actually.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's what you should do.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
No, I do have a podcast called The Golden Goat, and that is on YouTube, and it's called, just go to The Golden Goat with Ruth Roche. There's no periods in it. And I also have a YouTube channel called Ruth Roche TV, which has educational videos on it, and a website that's ruthroche.com.
There you go. And if people make the mistake that I did, which was hunt through the normal podcast apps for Ruth Roche podcast, all I will say is good luck to you.
Yeah.
Because it's on YouTube only, isn't it? I can't
right now I'm only
on any.
Yeah, I'm only on YouTube. If you go to my Instagram, you go to my bio, there's a link in my bio to get to the podcast.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, you've had some good people on there, so good luck with that. I know there's a lot of work that goes into it. So I'll put those links on our website, growmysalonbusiness.com, and in the show notes for today's podcast. If you're listening to this podcast with Ruth Roche, aka Judy, and have enjoyed it, do me a favor, share it with people who you know would enjoy it too. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and review on the Apple Podcast app. So, to wrap up, Ruth Roche, thank you for being on this week's episode of the Grow My Salon Business podcast.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for having me. It was fun. I enjoyed chatting with you, and you'll have to be on my podcast.
I will look forward to it. We can't wait another 30 years before we connect, surely.
I know.
Okay, all right. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.